Hello faculty, my name is Brooks Winchell from the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching at Cambridge College. And in this video, we're going to do a full walkthrough of all the teaching features in Zoom. These are the main features that you're going to want to use when you're teaching synchronously, remotely using Zoom. So we're going to take a look at setting up and sharing meeting links with students as well as starting meetings, sharing screen and utilizing the whiteboard, sharing files in the chat, setting up and managing polls, setting up and managing breakout rooms, and enabling security features on Zoom. So we're going to start by going to the zoom.us website and looking at how to set up and share meeting links as well as how to start meetings with students. So the best thing to do is go to the website zoom.us and log in to that website using your Zoom account. Once you're logged in, it'll take you to your profile page, and across the left here you'll see several different options, including this is where your recordings would be stored and your account settings. On the profile page, you can see a picture, and you might want to add a picture here because when you pause your video, that picture shows. But you'll also see your personal meeting room ID. This is your personal meeting room link, and that's specific to you. That's your own custom link that's always on and always running that you can share with anyone and use that link to join into a meeting. We highly recommend that faculty use their personal meeting room link or ID link to share with students, because then it's always the same. Sometimes if you go to meetings and try to set up individual meetings, it'll create different links or custom links that could be confusing for students. Best practice we found is to make one link highly visible. That's the only link you use for conferences, classes, anything like that, and students will always have it. You can email it to them, you can put it on your syllabus, you can put it on the learning management system. So there's two ways you can do that. Here's the link right here. You can just highlight it and copy it and paste it into an email or syllabus. You can also create a personal link, and that's a customizable link. In this case, I put my name. This link will also take anyone who has it to the personal meeting room. So that's another alternative. So we'd recommend one of those two for setting up and sharing with students. When it comes time to start your class, the first thing you want to do is go to the zoom.us website and log in. And the reason you want to log into the website is so that you can start it from the website and assure that you're the host of that meeting. So once you're logged into the meeting, you want to click Meetings. And if you are using your personal meeting room, you want to go to Personal Meeting Room. And there'll be a button here that says Start Now. I'm already in a Zoom session, so it says Join Now, but it'll say Start Meeting Now. Click that button to start the meeting, and then you'll be assured that you're the host of that meeting. You can also get a calendar invite with the embedded personal meeting room links here. And again, here's the invite link that you can share with students on that page. So that's how to set up and share links in Zoom and how to start meetings through the zoom.us website. Now we're going to take a look at being in Zoom and how to set up and share screen and share the whiteboard in Zoom. So if I was going to start a class, I'd log into zoom.us and click Join Start Now, and I would be able to start my Zoom session. I already have one running here. Once I started, I'm in the Zoom session, and there are two of me in here because I have my cell phone in here as well as an example of a participant. So here we are inside Zoom. We can see across the bottom all of the various features that are available in Zoom. Sharing screen is really easy. This will allow you to share whatever's on your computer so that students can see it. So this is great for sharing PowerPoints or sharing files with students live through Zoom. In order to share your screen, click the green screen share button, and then it gives you several different options here of what you want to share. Screen 1 will just share whatever's on your screen. I happen to have a second screen that I could also share if I want. There's a share whiteboard. There's a share iPhone, which is an interesting feature that will allow you to connect your iPhone directly to the share. And then there are any windows that are open that you can share. So it gives you these different options. I like to share my screen because often I'll jump between different files. But if you only want to share like a PowerPoint, you can go to that single file and share that. And it'll only show that. But if you leave it, it won't follow you. So to share screen, I just click Share Screen. And now it's sharing whatever I'm seeing on my screen. And I also have some tools over here that I can manage what I'm sharing. I can go to my desktop. I can go to the internet, I could share a PowerPoint, I can flip between various pages. When I'm done sharing my screen, I want to click Stop Share, and that stops it. And now we go back to the participant view. We'd be able to see whoever's in the class or in the meeting. You can also share your whiteboard. If you click Share, again, I could choose Whiteboard. And if I share my whiteboard, it pulls up a little whiteboard here, and it gives me several different annotating options for how I want to interact with that whiteboard. I can use the pencil, which will allow me to use my cursor to draw whatever I want. I can also do text, which is good for notes, like how you might write on a whiteboard at school. And you can, put text in various places throughout. There are some stamps that you could use in here. These could be useful for calling out different items. There's a spotlight in here. There's various features. You can change fonts and things like that. Once you're done your whiteboard and you want to save that, click Save, and it'll save all your whiteboard drawings to a file on your desktop when the meeting ends. When you're done, you can click Clear All Drawings, and it will clear all the drawings in that. In addition, students have the ability to edit the whiteboard as well, so you can be editing at the same time a student is editing. The students will just have to click on their screen. It'll say View Options. They'd click View Options and the word Annotate, and it'll allow them to annotate right on with you, and they'll get the same toolbar as well. So that's a great way to collaborate, and students can also use that collaboratively in breakout rooms as well and bring their drawings back to the main room. So I'm going to stop sharing my whiteboard. Next, we're going to talk about how to set up and share files in the chat. So this is a really nice feature if you're teaching and you have files that you want to share. You can share those files right through the Zoom session. You just go to the chat, where you can chat back and forth with participants, and you can choose who to share that file with, in this case, everyone in the meeting. And then there's a little button right here that says File. Click that button, and it'll allow you to search your computer for a file that you want to share. In this case, I'm going to share a Zoom PowerPoint that I have on my desktop. It'll upload that PowerPoint right into the chat. And once it's done, all the participants will be able to see that in the chat, and they'll have the option to download that file and save it to the computer. So that's great when you're in class and you want to share your PowerPoint with students. It's also good for sharing any kind of file that you want to get with students sort of in the moment or in real time. Now let's talk about setting up and managing polls, another great feature in Zoom. Polls will allow you to run polls that students can answer, and then you can share those results with everyone else in the group. So in order to do polls, the first thing you want to do is set up your polls in advance. It is possible to set up polls within a meeting, but setting them up in advance is really the ideal way to do it, because then you have them ready to go. And it doesn't take class time preparing the polls. So you set up polls through the zoom.us website. So again, log into zoom.us, and once you're logged in, you want to go to Meetings. And then if you're using your personal meeting room, you would go to Personal Meeting Room. And this is where you sort of manage the controls for your personal meeting room. And you can see at the very bottom here, I already have several polls that are set up. This is where you would set up your polls. You just click Add, and you create a new poll. You could make it anonymous. Put whatever question you want. Give students options for answers. And you can choose whether they can choose a single answer or a multiple choice answer. And those are essentially the features in Zoom, the features of the polls in Zoom. You can add a second question if you want. And then once you're done, you save your poll, and you'll see that that shows up now in your list of polls connected to your personal meeting room. And these are all polls that once they're connected, you can choose to launch. So here's the poll that I just created. It's called New Poll. It has 2 questions on there, and it's attached to my personal meeting room. So once I've set up my poll, and it comes time to be in class, you want to come back here to your personal meeting room and start the meeting through here. Here I am in my Zoom session. And with my poll set up, on the bottom of the screen I can go to my polling button. Click the poll button, and then choose the poll that you want to launch by clicking this little drop-down arrow. So again, here we can see all 10 of the polls that we have attached to our meeting room, personal meeting room. Here's the new poll that I just created, so I can select that one, and then I can launch the poll. Now the polling is in progress. There's no one else in this meeting right now, but if there was, they would be answering these questions, and I would be able to see the results of their questions. And we can also see how many people have completed the poll. Once we have everyone who's completed, we click End Polling, and then that stops everybody from being able to enter the poll, and then click Share Results. And that will show it to everybody else in the class. So all the students will be able to see that poll and see the responses, and you can review those with the class. It's a really great tool. It's a good way to get students to interact in the class, and it's a nice way to be able to get formative feedback from students in class. Once you're done, you can stop sharing the results. Then you can either relaunch it or you can just exit out of that poll. Now we're going to take a look at one of the most important teaching features in Zoom, which is setting up and managing breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are great because you can put several students in small groups and they can do some work or some assignment, and then you can bring them back when you want to bring them back. So it's a good way to engage students, again, using Zoom. So breakout rooms fairly easy. You don't have to do anything in advance, although it is possible to set up rooms in advance through the zoom.us website. I'm not going to show that in this video, but I'm just going to show the basics of how to set up and manage a breakout room in Zoom. So once you're logged into zoom.us, I have another participant in here that I can use as an example for the breakout rooms. Along the bottom, you'll see the breakout room button. It could be under More, or if you're using a Mac, it might be in a different place, but as long as you're the host of the meeting, you should have the breakout room feature. So when it comes time to do a breakout room for small group work, the first thing you want to do is give the students the directions and say, we're going to move into small group breakouts, and I would strongly advise sharing that question in the chat, because then they can take it with them to the breakout room. So the first thing you want to do is open the chat and share your question. Here is a discussion in the chat. After you put the discussion question in the chat, you want to go to your Breakout Rooms button. In this case, it's under More. Click Breakout Rooms. And it says assign the number of participants into the number of rooms. Again, I only have one participant in this sort of recording session, but if you had 10 students in your class, it would say assign 10 participants into, and you could choose the number of rooms. Maybe 2 or 3 rooms, so you have 3 or 4 students per room. And you can choose whether you want to manually assign those or automatically. Automatically is very easy because it'll create the rooms in a random order. So I'm going to do automatically and click Create Rooms. And here we can see it says Breakout Room 1, and my participant is in that room. If you have multiple participants, you would see the additional rooms. So it would say Breakout Room 1, all the participants, Breakout Room 2, all the participants, Breakout Room 3, all the participants. And you have the option to rename that breakout room if you want to as well, or delete the room. There's also an option to recreate the room. And under options, you can choose to have rooms close after a certain number of time, or how long you want them to have after you close the room to come back to the main room. So once you're ready and the breakout rooms look like how you want, and it is possible to move participants from one breakout room to the next too, you want to click Open Rooms. The participants get an invitation to join the room, and so they can choose to do so. So I'll join the room with my phone, and I can see on the host that, that I'm in the meeting now, and my phone is no longer in the main room, it's in the breakout room. So in the breakout room, we have a few different options. We can choose to send a message to everyone. And this is really good if we want to send an announcement that you're going to be closing the rooms, or if you want to send a reminder for a question. It doesn't stay in the breakout room, it'll just blip in the breakout room. And that's why I really encourage you to put a discussion question in the chat so that students can take that with them. When the students are in the breakout room, they'll have the option to be able to leave the breakout room at any time and come back to the main room. But you can also, once the breakout rooms are complete and you want them to come back, if you click close room, it'll give them 60 seconds to come back to the main room. And there's a little countdown here so you can see when that's done. Once it hits that 0, everybody will come back to the main room. But as soon as you click close breakout rooms, participants have the option to leave that breakout room and rejoin the main room, as my phone just did. So that's how breakout rooms work. They're a really great feature, and I encourage you to use breakout rooms because I think it's an excellent way to engage students when you're teaching with them. The last thing that we're going to take a look at is enabling security features in Zoom. So Zoom added this feature a few months ago to give more security to meetings. You'll see a little button across the bottom here that says security. If you click that button, it'll give you all the different options that you have. So you can remove a participant. So if you click remove participant, you have the ability to remove anybody you want. So if there's somebody who's causing disruptions or somebody who you don't identify or who you don't know, you can remove that person from the meeting fairly easily. There's also the ability to control what participants can do. So if you don't want your students to be able to talk in the chat back and forth, you can close the chat down. Just unclick that and they won't be able to do it. I tend to like my students to talk in the chat, so I leave that open. You can also not allow students to share their screen. You can uncheck that box as well. And that'll prevent people from sharing their screen in the middle of your talking. However, I usually like my students to be able to share their screen. And then you can also not allow people to rename themselves. That's to prevent people from clicking the rename, right-clicking, and renaming themselves to something that's inappropriate. At the top, there's 2 options for meeting controls as well. If you check lock meeting, once everybody is in, you can lock that meeting and nobody else can get back into the meeting. I usually don't encourage that because if somebody accidentally gets kicked out, they won't be able to get back into the meeting and you won't know that they're gone. I instead prefer to enable the waiting room. If you have your waiting room enabled, then if somebody leaves the meeting and tries to get back into the meeting, you'll see a little blip that says, this person's trying to get back into the meeting. Let me show you how that works. My phone is now joining the meeting. And we can see that I got a little signal and a doorbell that tells us somebody's in the waiting room. And here's my phone in the waiting room. So I have the ability to admit my phone back into the meeting. And now I'm back into the meeting there. So those are some of the main security features. There's also some additional security features under participants. So if you click participants, you can see next to additional participants, you have a button called More. If you click More, these are things you can do. You can assign somebody to be the host. You can rename people. You can put people back in the waiting room, or you can remove them from there too. So there are some other additional security features. So those are some of the most important teaching features via Zoom. So I encourage you to use those and to think about the best ways that you can engage your students as you're teaching in this synchronous distance format. Consider using all the things we talked about, and good luck with your teaching. Thanks.